The world is fluctuating right now.
Exactly. Fluctuations, we learn to deal with them.
Well, that's where the interconnectivity comes in.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, on that note, on that wee little segue into it there from Heidi.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's start our session. Hi everyone. I'm Maddy, and welcome from whatever time zone you happen to be in. It's great to have you here. And this is the first session that we're doing on the power of interconnectivity. And of course, I thought for the first time up, it would be really great to do it with our ambassadors, Dani and Heidi. So the reason I wanted to start these sessions was partly as to be able to introduce our ambassadors to people who haven't necessarily, don't necessarily know so much about them. But then also, it's great to look at what our ambassadors and champions, what their strengths are, and how those relate to the category of the month that we happen to be in. And so that wraps up into category interconnectivity. So I'm just referring to these people as the lights of Lifebook. And certainly Dani and Heidi definitely fit that in a lot of ways. So I'd like to start with introducing Heidi. And
Hi.
Yeah, we'll get you, if you could share a bit of your background and a little bit of how you came to be part of Lifebook.
Okay, so background wise, I think I'll start out with actually school, because it's a big thing for all of us, and it starts out an awful lot of our life. And if I take myself back to school, and I've been talking about this quite a bit recently, I left school with almost no qualifications, and I mean no qualifications. I had typing. I was really good at that. And I was told by my English teacher, and I've been told throughout my entire school life, that I wasn't really good at any subject. And my English teacher told me that my work was no good and every piece of work had lines and was crossed through. And I believed that. I believed that I wasn't any good at anything at school. So I left school, as I say, with no real qualifications and went straight into just doing copy typing because I was a good typist and I was fast at it. So that sort of gave the spirit. And I also had, through all my childhood, teens, young life, many health issues, which I didn't understand. But I was told right at a young age, I would become diabetic. And I believed that. And guess what? I did. So I became diabetic in my early 50s. And that was like a cycle of believing what you get told. And then I left my job at the age of 54 because I was so ill. And it was almost like a fulfilling prophecy that said, so actually you were no good. Although you had 36 years or 39 years professional life and you did really well, what was fake in there? I did the self-sabotage, the judgment, the doubt, because all the other beliefs come up. And then I was diabetic. And then 2 years before I came to Lifebook and Mind Valley, I reversed my diabetes, and I did it in less than 6 months, but I thought nothing of it. I just thought, oh, done that. And I thought no significance about it. And just I mentioned it in the book that I'd written, which I did after I'd gone through Lifebook. And then Lifebook came along and some other quests through Mind Valley. And that became the transformation moment, because I came to Lifebook wanting a replacement for the career that I'd lost, that I thought I was no good at. But I wanted to carry on working because I kept thinking, well, I can't afford not to work, and I need to have an income, and I need to be doing something. And I need to replace all of that, and I don't feel valuable, and all of the things that go with that. So my emotions were very high. So I came to Lifebook wanting and expecting the sort of plug, if you like, from the masterclass was, oh, career. Yeah, I'll go straight into career, because Lifebook doesn't let you do that. It says, no. You're going to start out with health and fitness, and then you're going to do some intellectual, and then you're going to do some emotional, and you're going to do some character and spiritual, and we'll come on to those a bit later. But my expectation was to go into career, but suddenly I had to go through and wade through all this other stuff. And that became the turning point for me. And I'll create some links back to what I said about my history of coming in, because health, I say I'd already reversed diabetes, but suddenly it was, okay, I'm in health, what else are we going to change? And with some other of the Mind Valley classes, specifically Donna Eden's energy medicine, I have got to give a call out to that woman. She is epic. That reversed my fibromyalgia. It got rid of that too. So suddenly here I was thinking, hang on a minute, you did that, just thought nothing of that one, and then now all of a sudden fibro's gone too. None of those symptoms exist now. Now, other little things crop up, and I've got a few things cropping up at the moment, but now I have the power of the mind that says we can get rid of those too. There is nothing that I can't overcome health-wise if I put my mind to it. And because therein comes the challenge then for me, going back to my career, was always I'd taken the stance of I can do what they set me if I set my mind to it. But of course, I overworked for my entire career in order to over deliver. So I went through my entire career, except for the last year, as being a really high performing person. But then suddenly what I felt was I've gone from here right the way down to the bottom. So coming into Lifebook, what I thought was a categories which would be okay, emotional category was rock bottom. And spiritual, I just thought, no, I'm not going to touch that, but we'll touch on those later. So that's my journey into here. That's where it all started and where I came from.
All right. So I knew some of that, but there was more there.
Yes,
than I did
there's
know.
always
And,
more.
You certainly made me think, oh, I do want to check out some more of Donna Eden's work, because I sort of had a taster of that, but definitely want to delve more deeply into her energy work. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Heidi. It's great. So now perhaps we could switch to Dani and just get a little bit of background on you, Dani, and your journey to Lifebook.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Well, I went to school, got married after I met the love of my life, had 2 kids, dealt with some health issues. Life was going really great. And then my husband got sick, and we didn't know, we thought we knew what it was, but it involved 5 days in the hospital. He lost the nerves from his knees down. They weren't sure what it was. And so that was in, I think it was like the fall of 2017. And then in December, we saw the ads for Lifebook. And I was really excited about it, but he is not, Jency is not he's not into that sort of thing. But he loved the idea that it was a framework. And we loved the idea that, hey, this is something the 2 of us could do together. And it gave us control in an area when our life felt completely out of control with his illness. And so we did that. And then probably about 7 months later, he was diagnosed with poem syndrome. And it was our Lifebooks that got us through his diagnosis. I mean, we had to live between 2 states. We had, he got really sick, and we had to have some very hard conversations. And I always felt like, oh, we have this great relationship. And then you do Lifebook and you realize, wait a minute, I can still level it up. I can take it a step further. So, and in doing all of that before he got sick, it got us through him getting sick. And, I'm one of those people, and like Heidi and I joke about this all the time. Like, I live and breathe Lifebook. I connect everything to Lifebook, and I will stick it in a category. I will tell you how it interconnects. And so that's how we came to Lifebook. And we still, I feel like each year and each the longer we're in it, the more layers. It's like, you know, what is it? Shrek says the onion has layers, and you're peeling back these layers until you get to, you know, just get to another layer, another layer, another layer. So that's kind of our, I mean, mainly that's how we ended up here, and now we're here helping others.
Right. Yes. And I love
Peeling onions.
the onions and the
Peeling
framework
onions.
the framework that it provides for you to sort of be able to hang off whatever's happening in your life, to be able to hang it on that framework and feel like you have some control and some order that you can help to cope when things don't go well. And which is awesome. And and I do thank you, Dani, for that, your inspiration since that time when you started sharing about Jinxie's journey for the two of you. So category interconnectivity. So Heidi, you shared with me previously that you started with emotional life being your strongest, and spiritual life had the most room to grow. You didn't even, like you said, you didn't even want to go there. So how have things changed in recent years?
Well, what was interesting was emotional I thought was strong, because then when I hit that category in Lifebook, I ended up in the emotional category for a whole year. And I dredged up every year of my life. It's how I ended up creating and writing a book, which was all about emotional recipes, because John said emotional recipes. And I thought, oh, I can do recipes. I'm great at cooking. I'll create recipe cards. And because then the more I started to delve into different emotions and recipe cards and how did I manage my emotions, I was digging through every year of my life and trying to pull out what were all the things that were creating limiting beliefs for me. What was my negativity? What is it I needed to overcome? How did that drive me as a person? That started to change my character. And in such a short space of time, my family was saying, you've changed so much, we love it, because I was changing and transforming so rapidly that I almost didn't recognize myself anymore. So the emotional category I dug into, but when we hit spiritual category, because I'd had a background of being brought up very firmly, and I mean firmly, in a religious regimen. My mum was schizophrenic and it was black or white. There was nothing in between. And quite literally, my brother and I had the fear of God put into us as very, very young children. I just said, no, spiritual, I'm not touching that. And I just didn't even look, I didn't even listen to the video. I just passed it by. And it's only been in the last 2.5 years that I've suddenly realized and dug in and thought, no, I'm going to go back and do this category because I need to understand what spiritual means for me. And in that time, I've read books that have transformed me in my thinking. And I've recognized synchronicities that I've had throughout my life that I've just not thought much of, and more synchronicities have been coming in through having gone through the Lifebook journey, that my spiritual now is probably my strongest category. So it's completely turned it upside down. What I thought was, I'm not going to touch that. Now I've gone on to write another co-author book, which isn't published yet, but again, that's a story that talks about me and me connecting with the moon and speaking with the moon, and the moon giving me a message. I'm not going to say any more than that. Anyone wants to know the story, I'll have to read the book and wait for Kerry Fisher to publish it. But the point is, what's beautiful about that is the connection of what's happened in this space of time and recognizing how and where it's coming from. And I talk to the moon regularly, so if anyone thinks I'm a bit nuts, yes, I am. But my granddaughter, who's 2, says, can we see the moon now? Because she wants to speak to the lady on the moon, because she's told me about the lady on the moon, because she sees it uniquely for herself. So we're already having dialogue, which is brilliant. And to me, that's the fun of these categories. And the pleasure of them now is because, as Dani said, it is you're pulling away these layers, but actually what you're doing is you're deepening your connection to them and their connection with each other. And Dani said, she thinks about categories. I live everything, I'm constantly thinking about, oh, that goes in that category. Oh, that goes in that category. Oh, that drops into 5. And on some of the connection calls that I do, sometimes I'm saying to me, oh, you've just covered 7 categories just in one thing that you've mentioned, because I've already worked them out as they're talking. And it's actually helping people to see that you're doing this. You're doing this every day of your life.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, and I definitely see that. And it's also that realization that, because we can get overwhelmed by the thought that we've set all these strategies up in 12 categories, how are we going to do them? But then recognizing, oh, I'm just covering 4 categories right now as I go for a walk, listen to something, experience nature, and whatever else it is. I can do all these things at once. And I
just got to quickly say, my funniest one is when I go out cycling. This is spiritual, but it connects with health. So health is I'm cycling for my health, but I'm cycling, and because I'm connecting all the time I'm cycling, I've had so many near misses of accidents because I'm too busy focusing on what's going on universally around me, the sky, the clouds, the birds, and all the rest of it, that I don't see the van that's just pulled out in front of me that I'm about to hit. And my recent one was I happened to saw this bird and it looked like it wasn't moving. I've gone to look up at the bird while I'm cycling and nearly wiped out somebody's front gate. But never mind, that's to me, that's fun. It's funny. It's beautiful.
Just keep a little more focus, perhaps, on the safety aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
Would be a good idea. Yes.
Yeah.
And I can certainly think that your granddaughter is experiencing and will experience a completely different spiritual upbringing compared to that you experienced. And I think it might be a little bit more positive.
I think it'll be a bit more open. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And allowing. Yeah.
Now, also, so we're talking spirituality, but then health, and you told us about your health journey. Now, so what has led you to the fact that you're now writing a course on health?
Oh, okay. So going back to career temporarily, and I am a Lifebook leader, and I did a cohort taking a health group through, thinking that I would connect with mental health because I've got a family history of that, and that felt right. But during the course I realized, great doing taking them through Lifebook, but actually mental health wasn't what I needed to connect to. And I kept thinking, who is that niche? Who is that target market? Who's the group that I should be connecting with? And it just wasn't coming. And I'm doing another program which is helping me to create the course. And it was through that program, and it just little things that get said on connection calls here, having discussions with other people and Dani, and then this course, and suddenly a penny dropped. It was like huge. It's like, the universe saying to you, for goodness sake, do you not get it? Wake up, lady. Because suddenly it was, well, of course your group is health, because it's diabetes. It's an epidemic around the world, and you reversed that 6 years ago, and you've stayed out of diabetes all that time. So why are you not connecting with that group of people? And it just so happens it's the first category of Lifebook. Oh, and then guess what? You can take them through the rest of their journey of Lifebook. So I'm actually writing a course for grandmothers like me who want to change the legacy for their family. Emotionally, quickly going back to emotional, I apologized to my daughter 5-6 weeks ago, sat on the bed holding her hand in tears and said, I am so sorry, because I set you on a journey to become, if you don't wake up and think about it, you could become diabetic like me, because I didn't teach you how not to be. I taught you how to be. And I need to change that. And I need to change that for my granddaughter, who's 2. So I've got to, I am living how I need to be, but if I can teach others how to be, then they can equally learn. So that's the course that I'm currently writing. It's not ready yet. There are some struggle points within it because I've got to work things out, because I'm having to relive my own journey and work out how I did that, but also share all the things that I've learned since. And that's where the value comes in, because you can reverse it, and you can reverse it quickly. But keeping it, that takes depth. And again, that's a bit like the, you know, the categories, you're going deeper and deeper. And that's what I'm trying to do in the course that I'm writing. So yeah, that's come full circle again. Again, it's the synchronicities. It's what the universe drops in and says, oh, you need that. I'll give that when you're ready. Oh, right, now's the time.
Right. And that sounds like, you know, that course, while it's based on this epidemic of diabetes, that
Yes.
It's not going to just be about health, because people need so much more around that.
No, because it's about emotional, it's about beliefs, it's about your character, it's all of those elements.
Yes.
I don't think I'd even touch the subject of food until they get to module 5. So there's a lot that has to happen first.
Yeah. I think it's well needed, and I really hope you're able to, over the next few months, really pull it together, because
Yeah, me too. I hope so too. That's
yes.
the intent.
Yes, the universe will deliver.
The universe will deliver what I need when I need it. Yep, absolutely.
Yes. All right. So going from your inspiration for this course to some of Dani's inspiration. So Dani, you have a group called Inner Lighthouse Musings, and you've been sharing some of your journey, some of your thoughts. You've been sharing the seasons on there, which I absolutely love. So can you tell me a little bit more about your journey in the recent years, especially with you and Jency and your teaching?
Sure. So when the pandemic hit, I started an Instagram account called Being the Lighthouse, because I got a cup of tea, and on it said, you know, I think the phrase was, I can't remember the exact phrase, but it was something about like, be the lighthouse, or being, you know. And so I was like, well, I don't know what I can do during this time, but I can post. I like to write haikus, and I like to inspire people. So literally it became a place where I could share photos and haikus. And then it sort of evolved when I became a Lifebook leader. And now it is, you know, when we had to come up with business ideas, we were like, okay, well, we'll call it Inner Lighthouse Musings, because we're all about going within. And for me, my purpose is to create empowering experiences for people. And I'm still working to narrow down the niche, because I seem to draw various different people to me. But it's about getting comfortable with who you are, which is where Lifebook fits in perfectly. And it's also about looking at your mindset and your perspective, and because those two things affect how you show up in the world. And that's where the lighthouse comes in, because it's so many people are afraid to shine. And so just being yourself. And then musings, I love to write, I love to think, I love to have conversations over tea. And just discuss, you know, Lifebook, you know, meditation, various topics. So that's kind of where the name came from. And in the community, the seasons have really stepped up, because I live my life in seasons. And I've recently, with my father's passing, have just embraced the seasons wholeheartedly. Fall has been such a powerful season for me, and it's also my favorite season, and it's brought me so much comfort. So seasons have been popping in. We talk Lifebook. I offer meditations, because that's something that I discovered thanks to Heidi, ironically, that I have a knack for, being able to create meditations on the spot. So all of that is sort of I share all of that in the community and just with people in my life. And there's the tea, which, if you know me, if you don't know me by now, I am all about the tea. And in terms of category interconnectivity, because I'm always trying to find ways to really Yeah. So it is a space where you can kind of come and hang out. And I talk tea, and tea is about, it's not just, it can be a grounding ritual. And I think that's one of the things that I am always talking about, is creating something that fits. Tea, you can drink it for health. So interconnectivity, you can drink tea for health. You can, I like to drink tea when I'm reading a book or studying something. When I drink tea emotionally, it's very calming, and you can drink different types of tea to calm you down. Spiritually, I have a friend who does, she creates special spiritual blends for different seasons, or actually last year I was a part of, I was invited to participate in, she had a seasonal tea. So literally I got tea for winter, and tea for spring, and tea for summer, and tea for fall. So it can, yeah, there's the pictures of it. So when it comes to tea, and it can be a sacred grounding ceremony, because you engage all of your senses. And I think there's a thing on the platform if anyone's interested in tea ceremonies and the greater power of tea. But it's also a ritual for my husband and I, because you had asked me about the love category. And I mentioned when we started Lifebook, I thought, yeah, we got this love category nailed. No, we could go further, and we took it a step further. But every morning I make my husband tea, and I drink it and he drinks it. And that is how we connect. So it's become a connection ritual. If you go out, if you come visit me, guess what? I'm going to offer you tea. So we're hitting on social.
Guess what? I visited her and she gave me tea. I haven't drunk tea since I was about 15, 16. But she got me onto ginger tea. And I'm drinking gallons of it now. Thanks, Dani.
You're welcome. Maybe I should invest in tea and make a career of talking about tea, and that'll take care of those. I don't know. But yeah, so for me, it's, I look for the moments, because we've been through with Jency, and because we've been through things with my dad. It's about looking for things that ground you when life goes chaotic and makes you feel empowered. Because when you're dealing with stuff that is, if you're dealing with a sickness or an illness or something beyond your control, it gets scary, right? And it can be really hard. So use tea, use meditation, create little rituals throughout your day that center you and ground you, whether or not it can just be breathing. It can be, walking is another huge thing. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, there's the Being the Lighthouse, and then I have one specifically for Inner Lighthouse Musings where I walk a lot. That's where I get the pictures of all the pretty leaves that I'm sharing with people. That's where sometimes I'll do mini meditations based on nature, because walking, and Heidi and I joke about this, you can hit all 12 categories on a walk.
You can.
You can hit all 12 categories on a single walk. So, there's, so yeah, so that's kind of, what Inner Lighthouse Musings stand for, why the lighthouse is such an important thing, because we all, it comes down to, we all have the power to, whether it be through Lifebook, I mean, especially with Lifebook, but we all have the power to work on ourselves, to shed light out into the world, or just shed light to others. And then, share our thoughts. That's what the musings is about. Like, what are your thoughts? Because when we have conversations about things, when we muse, and that's the other thing too, musings, inspiration, I'm all about it. Like, go out and inspire someone and empower someone. One of the things with the poem syndrome, when Jency was diagnosed, we're like, all right, we have a choice in this. We're going to find the gifts. And if we can help one person, turns out we've helped more, but if we can help one person with what we've been through, then it gives what we've been through a purpose. It lets us shine a light out there.
Yeah, just sharing, Dani shared with me some photos of the journey with Jency, which I think nice to see how the progression goes, and I love seeing your life book there. That's very cool. And on to now, and I can see that seriously you've got love relationship really on the upward swing, which is very cool.
I could spend like a whole hour talking about that, but really the key is when he got sick was changing their mindset and our perspective, because it was so easy for me as his caregiver to be like, oh, you know, I feel like I'm doing all the work. And I never felt that way. I always, like, whenever I touched him, whenever I did anything, it became a mantra of, I am showing my love to him, because I didn't know how much time we were going to have. So it was like, when I touch you, when I do this for you, this is me showing my love to you. So I changed my whole mindset, which was and we just looked for the gifts in the whole journey. And it did, like, we also had the opportunity to talk with John and Missy, and we started off Lifebook with health and fitness being our main, because he was sick and I needed to be healthy for a caregiver. But then we up-leveled, and our foundational goal became working together as a couple for our life book, which actually enabled me to, I was able to heal some past traumas. We created date nights and rituals for to enhance our love life. So, it's what for us, and I think Heidi will agree, it comes down to perspective and what are you looking at? Where is your focus?
Yes. And focus on the positive of everything.
Mm. So I think that leads quite nicely into Heidi's. It's kind of a love relationship story, but of course it's everything else as well. Is what did you do in 2020, or what did you have planned to do in 2020?
What did I have planned? So as part of my original life book goals and my overriding goal and my quality of life goal specifically, but also love relationship, because the two went hand in hand, as it turned out, we had the opportunity to go on a cruise down the Rhine in 2020 with Donna Eden, Energy Medicine, so that comes back full story, with her and her family on the cruise, going down for a week, I think it was 10 days in total. And we paid for it, said yes. My husband for years has wanted to go on a Rhine cruise. And back in the day, I'd said, no, I don't fancy that. And we never ever went. So suddenly I had a purpose to go, and he had a reason for wanting to go, and that felt beautiful. So we booked and paid for the cruise, and because 2020, we had the pandemic and the cruise got cancelled. And then they said they could postpone it to the following year, 2021. And then it got postponed again. But in 2020, we thought, okay, we can't go on the cruise, so let's create our own holidays. And we went on all sorts of holidays every day, and we created a scene for every holiday. And Maddy will share some of those with you. We went to some amazing places. Have you got it?
Yep, one moment. Here we go.
If not, I have. If not,
yeah,
I have.
No, I've got it ready here when it opens.
So we thought of different places that we could go. So we went to the Dutch tulip fields, and we went to bird parks, and we went on a spiritual sanctuary down bottom left-hand corner. We went on a spiritual sanctuary. We went to Italy, and we had pasta like the two dogs in the Disney film, and we just had a lot of fun. We had an absolute blast. We went boulder moving, and I went deep sea diving, and absolutely. And we just had an awful lot of fun. We went to a magical place with ducks, and that bonded us so strongly. So yes, of course, there was disappointment that the cruise wasn't going to happen. And yes, of course, there was lots of people being very unhappy, but we just thought, no, come on, let's have some fun. So, and the whole point of 2020 was it was our 30th wedding anniversary, which is why it had become so important. So we celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary in style, and we just had an absolute blast. I don't know whether you can hit the, is it on timer?
No, I'll hit it. Not too.
Yeah. And then 2 years later, this year, we actually got to go on our Rhine cruise. We met Donna Eden top right and her daughter Dondi, and also her husband. I got to meet the two of them, bottom right-hand corner. They are amazing spiritual people, because energy, you can't be anything but. We saw fabulous views. We had an amazing time. My husband and I in the middle there, he said, I'm not into all that energy stuff, but of course I'll enjoy the cruise. He got an energy session by one of the energy medicine people on the cruise, and that blew his mind, and it actually overcame a problem. So do you know what? Synchronicities and magical moments happen no matter where you are. And you just have to wait for the right thing to come at the right time. And everything that happened over that 2 years came at exactly the right time.
Thanks, Heidi. And I remember being so inspired. You know, we were all, that whole sense of us all being stuck at home in our different parts of the world. And what you would do, I thought, yes, I can make the most of the little moments that we have. And what
we even got to be on the local news, which was hilarious.
Yes, I saw that clip, BBC South, wasn't it?
Yeah, BBC South, where they showed our clip of us in the garden with the duck, I think it was. Yeah,
very cool. Yeah, yes. So I think we've all learned to find ways to bring, coming back to this month's category, quality of life, to bring in the last couple of years quality to our lives in difficult situations, in unexpected situations. And I think what I love about both of you is that you find ways to bring a high quality of life that's not expensive, that's simple, that's not complicated. And yeah, would you like to perhaps, Heidi, first maybe share a little bit of
do you know what, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go anywhere to have a good quality of life. You don't even have to have possessions to have a good quality of life. It's in the little things that you do and the fun you have along the way. So we did all that, hunting around in our garage and home, having absolute fun, finding all the props that we could possibly create a scene that represented somewhere we were going to go. We may actually do it again next year, just for the sheer hell of it, because it's fun. And now we've got a 2-year-old in the house. That'll be even more fun, because she'll come up with her imagination. And who knows what that will look like. I have vision of pots of paint and stuff in the garden, but, you know, my lawn might end up a different colour, but never mind. It doesn't matter. But it is about fun things. So, you know, I'm going off and going every week with her to a monkey play group, which is you're inside and you're climbing around frames and you're getting through all these bits and pieces and challenges for the little ones. But because we're having to go through with her and taking her down the big slides and getting her to do things she's not done before. But last week I was literally going through all of this, and I was going through it with such ease, and we ended up sitting inside high up on 3rd level up in this little tiny tent. And she just said, let's sit here, Nana. And there I am sitting there with my sort of legs out in front of me. And she suddenly gets up and runs to the back to this mesh and then comes flying at me to the point that I fell backwards. And we just laughed. That's quality of life. It's not something where you've got to buy something. Just do something magical in the moment and appreciate that moment for what it is. And then she just sat there and she said, we stay here. And I said, well, we can stay here till somebody wants to come through. And so we did. And she did it again and again. And that's fun. It's just joy. It's pleasure. That's quality of life for me. And also, you know, just sharing the things that I've learned. So I mentioned right back at the beginning about what I believed. I've worked and cleared so many beliefs, and now I get to be a clear beliefs coach and help other people do the same thing. That's magic. And that's the magic of the universe giving me things now that I now realize is a synchronicity back to something from the past. I'd paid things forward. The traumas and things that you think is a problem is something you're paying forward for the future. And suddenly you'll connect them. And that's where Lifebook as a framework helps you to start to connect all these things together, and you realize actually your whole life has just gone like that and become a mesh that makes you strong, it makes you powerful, and it makes you who you want to be.
Yeah, awesome. So Dani, quality of life for you, what's most important for you about quality of life?
Oh, that is something I've actually been really sitting with these last couple of months, because my quality of life, when my dad got sick, he got sick back in the summer. It flipped. My life flipped again. I was a long distance caregiver, which is different than being an in-person caregiver. And then I was his POA because we knew he had memory issues, but we did not realize how bad the dementia was. And so I was like, here. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. And then we had to travel back and forth because he lived in Maryland. So I was literally like, my family was up here, we were all, and then I was concerned because I've heard many people say, oh, I can't handle this time of year because I lost a loved one. And I was like, no, I don't want that to happen. So it all goes to perspective. And Heidi and I talk about this all the time, perspective and mindset. So I looked at my life and I'm like, okay, fall, autumn, it's my favorite season. And if my dad was going to get sick or have issues, this is the best time of the year because I'm comforted by the leaves. I'm comforted by being out in nature. So my daughter and I, we've been doing a challenge this year, and we have walked every day together this year. I've walked every day this year outside, no matter the weather, and we'll take photos or pictures together. And so I really embraced the season. And then because we were in Maryland and we had these beautiful drives through the mountains, so I got more leaves and more foliage. And I started to realize, okay, I have to be in Maryland to handle some things, and I need to be in West Virginia to handle others. So this ties into the rituals. What can I do to enhance my quality of life? That's simple little things that I can do in West Virginia or in Maryland. So the tea, we go back to the tea. I still continued to make tea for my husband and I, whether we were in Maryland, whether we were in West Virginia. And when I drink my tea, there are some days you're like gulping it down. I don't try to do that. I really focus on, okay, I feel the warmth of the cup. I can smell the scent. I can taste it. And I found comfort in that cup of tea. So then when I'd share it with my husband, but sometimes I'd be like, you know what? I need a cup of tea. And instead of rushing through things, I used that cup of tea to enhance my quality of life, whatever I was doing, because I'd stop and I'd pause and I'd focus on the joy from this little cup with hot water and herbs in it. And then when I went for my walks, they were non-negotiable. I didn't realize that making the commitment to walk every day was actually, like, I always knew it's 12 categories, you can fit 12 categories on a walk. Well, it's, going out on a walk, being out in nature. I go with my daughter, so I get the parenting category. We'd have deep conversations. I was helping her through her grief and her, confusion. And then we both started taking comfort in the walks and going outside. So her quality of life, has been up leveled by this walk. And we've even talked about, okay, so next year, what are we going to do? Because we've walked every day. Do we give ourselves a break? I was like, no, we got to try new places now. Where else can we walk? Where else can we go? So, and then I realized something that I had been denying myself because my time was so jam-packed was a good book and a cup of tea and a cozy blanket. Man, I want to feel better. I want to improve my quality of life instantly. That's what I would do. And I also learned that I was seeking comfort from everything at one point, including food, and not in a healthy sense. And so eventually my brain kicked in and I'm like, you're really not feeling good and you're really not eating the way that you were. So how are you going to shift this? And then that's when I made the connection of, all right, I'm going to make time to read a book. I'm going to make time for myself, especially because being a caregiver, because I still caregive for my husband. There are some things he still cannot do. He cannot drive. He still needs help with things. And then I was caregiving for my father. like whenever we go back into Maryland, I would go and I would visit with him and I would have the same conversation over and over again. So another way I enhanced his quality of life and mine, whenever I would go back to see him, I would sit with him and I would just tell him, I love you. And the conversation would repeat, but I would just like, you know what, Dad, I love you. And I'd hold his hand and I'd brush his hair and I would just be like, I love you. And you're going to leave this knowing that I love you. That's what I said in my head. Well, no, I actually did tell him, I'm like, you know, whenever I leave you, you're going to know you're loved. And it happened that he had a nurse there who looked just like me when I was younger. And he used to call her my name. He said, Dan. So he'd be like, you know, and he would tell her. And so when on the day he died, he told her, Dan, I'm so glad you're here with me. I love you so much. And then he went and took a nap. And then that fast he was gone. But he thought I was there with him the whole time. He knew I was loved, that he was loved. He knew I loved him, right? So quality of life, how can you enhance your quality of life? You can enhance others at the same thing, but it doesn't cost any money. None of this costs, well, okay, maybe the tea cost me money, but hey, I have a stash. You can borrow tea from someplace. But what brings you joy? Little things, little itty bitty things. That's what grounds me when I am dealing with, and we have dealt with some really, really heavy stuff, from familial dramas to sickness to, you know, my father's health had brought up more familial dramas. But ultimately, it's your perspective. How do you see things? What little things you can do? And another thing, your sacred choices. Like, I was getting to the end of this year and I told Heidi, I'm like, I don't think I've met any of my goals this year. Well, guess what? You create sacred choices, whether they be for quality of life, whether they be for whatever. At the end of this year, I'm realizing I am farther along than I thought, even having my life disrupted for 3 to 4 months, because I have sacred choices. And these sacred choices don't cost me money. They're the walking. They are the weekly money dates. They are the spending time, you know, when I walk, I spend time with my kids. They are the tea in the morning. I call it centering. And that's when I drink my tea, you know, journaling, things like that. So sorry, I got a little excited about that.
That's great.
And of course, you covered spiritual by the connection with your father, which came in such a beautiful way. Although, albeit it was somebody else that looked like you, it was still that spiritual connection. And I think the word that's coming out for me, or the phrase, is what John says all the way through Lifebook: simplicity on the far side of complexity. None of these categories are complex, if you can look for the simplicity in them and the synchronicities in them and the connections. And because Dani, I just got to call out Dani, because one of the reasons why I ended up co-authoring in 2 books was because of Dani being so inspiring, because she did the free flow writing with us as a group. There was an accountability group. And that gave me more confidence, which is intriguing, because that goes right back to what I was saying about school and English and all the rest of it. And you just think to yourself, yes, okay, teacher, move on, move over, because this has all changed. And that becomes a beauty. But equally, Dani talked about the fact that Jency has got poem syndrome. Dani's a poet, for goodness sake. And it's almost like this is giving her a thing on the head that says, come on. And she's done more and more poetry throughout all of this, which again becomes another gift. And Dani introduced me to the gifts of the things that come your way. Look at them, look for the gifts. And that changed my mind in terms of emotional, spiritual, and all of the other categories. Everything that comes to you is a gift. So thank you, Dani.
You're so welcome. I didn't know that.
So very right. Thank you. So shall we now, we'll open it up if anybody else has something they'd like to share, or questions for Dani or Heidi. Let's come on and just either unmute yourself, or hang on, I better change views if you're putting your hand up. Or put your hand up or unmute yourself if you'd like to share anything. Petra, hi.
Hello. I would
Hi.
like to thank you for a deep conversation. It was very inspiring, and I felt it very deep. And I was not in thinking about how much the categories are connected that much as you are describing now. I felt it in some ways, and I got a lot of inspiration to concentrate it on more. And I just want to appreciate what you're doing here and what you're doing for your loved ones and people around you. So thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Petra,
The,
we
the
appreciate
deeper you go, the more you start to think 12 categories.
My experience is the connection with spiritual in many categories, because I love to do to create things like photographing. Now I'm learning painting, also writing. I did some books, movies, and these things. So I want to, every day to create something, at least a little.
And your creativity will start to connect all the categories.
And it's connected because it's in work with friends. Yeah. So yeah. I'm not really a structured person, so I don't do the big plans. But as I'm doing meditations every day, at least one, but mostly more, and the breath, and I started to walk also and have deep connection with the nature. I feel that this connection is actually rising. The more you're doing, easier it becomes. And when you are a little, something is happening, something wrong is happening, something tough is happening, it's helping. For example, last week, I had a little surgery. The 2 wisdom teeth went out and I was scared. But actually that, because before I spent a lot of time in hospitals and had many surgeries also. So this was, for me, it was very the place I didn't want to be, but I kind of opened the mind and was having this experience completely different. How much the people are kind, how they are skillful, how fast they are, how what we had some nice conversations there with the doctors and with the patients. So it became quite a nice enjoyment, actually.
When you look where you focus, where you put your focus on, it changes everything. And your perspective is so powerful. I'm listening to you talk about your experience in the hospital. And it does, if you go in there with the intention of, I'm just going to enjoy this, or I'm going to connect with somebody, or even no intention, just to, see what presents itself. And it's so powerful. I mean, that's so amazing.
Yes.
You can have a brilliant experience instead of a bad one. Exactly. Yeah.
And it's fun. Yeah. It's fun because how much you can change. For example, when you cannot speak because you have half mouth frozen. I went to shopping, some things where I needed help. So everybody was laughing.
And they're laughing with you because you've got that mindset. They will laugh with you. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a beautiful way to end our session for today. So thank you so much, Dani and Heidi, and thank you, Petra, for sharing.
Thank you.
And yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this session. Next month, I'll be talking to Judy Lowe. Judy's the health and fitness champion, and we'll obviously be connecting health and fitness with life vision and probably every other category as
all of them
as one does. So I hope you're able to join us then. The dates and the event will be out soon. But thank you so much, everyone. It's been
thank you, Maddy. It's been fun.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.